The Tim Heale Podcasts. Ordinary people's extraordinary stories.
Welcome to the Tim Heale Podcast. In this episode, I'm going to have a chat with Edwin. Edwin's going to tell me where and when he was born. He's going to describe what it was like where he grew up, the schools he went to, and the education that he received. So, Edwin, over to you.
Hey, good afternoon, Tim. How are you? Thank you for having me here.
You're welcome. So, when were you born?
I was born on September 5th, 1978 in Quito, Ecuador, South America.
So, what was it like where you grew up?
It was interesting, I'll tell you that. It was fun during the summers because my mother used to send me to my uncle's farm. So we had a great time growing up in the farm. We had all kinds of animals that you could think of: sheep, goats, dogs, guinea pigs, horses, cows. I mean, you name it, we had it there. From domesticated to non-domesticated animals. And it was fun. It was fun just being a kid, a wild, and running around with no worries, no fears, and no responsibilities. It was really fun.
So were the non-domesticated animals attacking the domesticated animals? Did you have problems with that?
I'm sure we did, but none that I could remember of. But going back to the city life where I was born, it was a little bit different. I was raised by a single mother. My father left us when I was a very young, maybe when I was 1 or 2 years old. So I really don't know much about my father. And at a young age, I had to become the man of the house. So I did have that part of the responsibility where I had to help my mom out, going out, paying the bills, electric bills, walking to school 3-4 miles at a very young age. And so it was interesting growing up in the city while I was in Ecuador. And then my mother left us at 8 years old to come to the United States so we could have a better life. And we stayed with my brother, my younger brother. I have a brother that's 3 years younger than me. We stayed in Ecuador, living for about 3 years without our mother, and my aunt was taking care of us.
So what was your aunt like? Was she a bit of a disciplinarian, or did she let you get away with everything?
No. We did not get away with stuff with her. She was very tough, very strict. I remember her waking us up maybe like at 4 a.m. with the belt because she went in our backpacks, look at our homework. She realized that we weren't doing our homework and make sure we did it. So at 4 o'clock in the morning, we had to redo our notebooks from scratch. The next day we had to go to school, borrow a friend's notebook and copy all the notes and start with a brand new, fresh notebook. So she ingrained that education part a lot into me. Just you got to do school. The school is important. Take care of this. It was tough because I never liked school. I personally never really thought that I liked school when I was young.
So she instilled that discipline in you from a fairly early age, I guess.
Yes.
So what, you moved in with her when you were about 8, you said?
Yes, sir.
So, and then when did you move to the United States then?
I came to the United States when I was 12 years old. My mother came to Ecuador. She was here for like about 3 years. Then she went to Ecuador to bring us to the United States. We came to the United States at 12 years old. I barely spoke English. Actually, I didn't speak. I knew just the basic words: hi, how are you, hello. And came to the United States when I was 12 years old. And I started going to school. So it was a funny thing. When the first time that I went to school, that she went to sign me up for school, they gave me, the schedule of classes that I was going to take. And they told me I was going to have a Spanish class. So I'm laughing. I'm like, Spanish? I know Spanish. I'm going to ace you. Sure enough. Yeah, I didn't know it was going to be Spanish for a Spanish speaker. So everybody spoke Spanish in the class. And of course, I wasn't a good student. So I ended up getting a C in that class because it was all about grammar. It wasn't about speaking the Spanish. It was about the grammar.
So you didn't learn that in Ecuador then?
I did, but again, as you grow, as
Yeah,
you go up in grades, everything gets harder. It's not the same thing, taking math when you're in kindergarten and taking math when you're in fifth grade. So it's the
yeah.
same thing with Spanish. The grammar changes, the more stuff that you need to know. So it's very different.
So what were the schools like in Ecuador? So I guess you went through kindergarten and we call it junior school.
Yes, the schools were
Uh,
nice. I mean, my mom made a very good effort. She's always been a hardworking woman, and I'm always thankful to her of that. That even though we were not wealthy, we were coming from a poor family. She worked very hard to put me in a private school because
mm,
the public schools in Ecuador, they're not good at all. So she made a good effort to put us in a private school, and I remember the name is called San Pedro Pascual SPP. It was a Catholic school, and that's where we used to go. So the education back
oh,
then, it was that if we didn't do what we needed to do, the teachers will spank us, will have their stick, will hit us, will
they
put it in the
beat it
corner.
into you.
They'll beat it to us. Yeah, they'll beat us up. So
So
those things
so
don't exist
being
anymore.
so being a Catholic school, were there nuns or were they the lay type,
Oh,
um,
priests, no nuns. It was
the
mostly
priests?
priests and yes, and brothers.
Yeah. Was it an all boys school or was it co-ed?
All boys school.
All right. So yeah, I guess all boys schools do tend to be a little bit more um, disciplined, should we
Yeah.
say?
Yes.
So did you have any problems with girls?
No.
Because lots of guys that go to all boys schools and girls that go to girls schools tend to find it difficult when they go to co-ed,
No,
just
I
communicating
never
it.
had a problem with that. I don't think I ever had a problem with that. When I moved here to the US, um, I went to a public school my first couple of years. And again, it was co-ed. Public schools are co-ed here in the United States.
Mhm.
And I didn't have a problem with that. Actually, the first school that I went to, there was this girl that I liked. And the only problem that I had was the communication issue because I didn't speak English, but that was about it.
So let's get you at 12 and you moved to the States, and the first school you went to, that was in junior high, would it have been
It was
about that sort of time?
no, I was already coming into
Elementary.
seventh grade. No, I was already middle school, and
Yep.
I think it was like sixth grade. Yeah, sixth grade that I came here.
And how quickly were you able to learn English and pick it up?
Took me like about a year and a half to learn English. And the problem that I realized that it took me a while to learn English was since I first came here, they put me into ESOL classes, which is called English for Spanish speakers. So the teacher spoke Spanish, or everybody in the class spoke Spanish. Of course, since we didn't speak English, we all continue with our language, which was Spanish. So I really took me a while to learn the English because I was in those type of classes that
Yeah,
once I was able to test out and go into the full English classes, that's when I really learned to speak English because I had to force myself to understand what everything was going on and to try to understand and learn the language because if not, I would have been held behind. So it
yeah.
really helped out when I transitioned from the ESOL classes to the English classes.
And when you did that, and your English obviously improved quite a bit fairly rapidly.
Yes. Still improving today.
Still improve. Well, my Spanish is really, really poor. Dos cervezas, por favor, but I think that's mainly Portuguese.
Okay.
But I think,
The good sentence.
yeah, well, I can drink a beer. What more do you need? And you can point at food. But I've got bits of lots of other languages, so I'll let myself off a bit.
Good.
So, um, moving on then to uh, the discipline that you'd learned early on, did that carry through when you got to the United States and you went into the elementary school? Did you maintain that level of self-discipline to do your homework, learn, or
No, no. I did not. It did not because I was still very young, and that discipline did not continue. I was actually a C average student, and I thought I wasn't smart enough because I was always a C average student.
Mm,
Even going through, when I went to high school, I was getting in trouble when I went to ninth grade because the public school that I had to go to based on where I lived wasn't the best. It was the greatest in soccer and in football, but it wasn't the best in
mm,
academic wise. And the people that I was starting to surround myself with, they would try to taking me through, through the wrong ways. So what my mom did was she took me out of there, and then she put me in a private school again, all boys, Catholic private school. And the academics there was so they were so good into academics that it was a struggle for me to try to keep up. So it got
mm,
to the point that, especially on the math part, that I remember that I tried my best at the beginning because then I really had to try. And it got to the point that, I tried so much that I wasn't catching up to it, that I just gave up on myself, and I started going to class and just put my head down. I go to the class, put my head down. I'm like, I'm not gonna do anything because the harder I tried, I still fail. So I'm just gonna give up. And I gave
mm.
up on the class, and of course I got an F. But throughout my whole school, like until high school, I thought I wasn't smart enough. I continued getting C's. I was a C student, C average student, and that was it. I wasn't able to go and go into the university that I wanted to, which was I really wanted to go to the Air Force Academy
Mhm.
to become a jet pilot, a jet fighter pilot. And I got everything else that I needed, the recommendations, everything else, but I didn't have the grades. So when I applied for that school, I got denied, and they told me,
Yeah.
you should come in as enlisted, and then once you come in as a listed, you could apply for it again and then become an officer. But that is
That
not
old
what I wanted to do.
that old chestnut.
Yes, you, you know how
Rec
it goes.
that's recruiters just lying to you.
Yes, yes, you know it.
So, um, did you go to college? Did you when
I
you
did.
graduated? So, and let's just have a quick look at the school then. So you went to another private Catholic school, all boys.
Yes,
Was that were that priests or was that nuns?
priests,
They're still priests. So,
still priests.
yeah. Did they still have the same sort of level of discipline they had in the old school?
No, because we're already in the United States. So, United States, we had all these different rules. So it was very different. It wasn't, like back the third world country,
Mm.
do what you want to your kids versus, being here in the States, they can't touch you, they can't do
Oh
anything.
yeah,
So,
that's you could sue the life out of them.
yes, yes.
Okay, then let's move on. So, did you graduate high school?
I graduated high school. Yes, I graduated when I needed to graduate. And when I graduated, I was starting to hang around with the wrong crowd. And what happened to me was that I was going to steal some rims, and we got caught. We didn't steal them, and
Mhm.
we got caught. So I got arrested. And to me, that was like one of the worst things that could have happened to me that time, because I was the first one out of my family to graduate from high school. Nobody else in my
Mm.
family has graduated from high school. My mother didn't finish, fifth grade, sixth grade. She taught herself how to read and write, everything else. So I was the first one in my family to really graduate from high school, and going to jail was like a big disappointment personally for me, and myself looking at my family. So what I did is I went to the Marine Corps and I signed up with them to go with them into the Marine Corps. But since I had to have a waiting period before I could go into boot camp, into basic training, um, at that time, I went ahead and I decided to kind of change my life. So the good thing about this, me being arrested, I think it was like the best thing ever happened to me. And the
Mm.
reason that it was the best thing that ever happened to me, because when I got home that night, I got on my knees and I prayed and I said, God, please forgive me. I will never do this again. If you help me from now on, I will change my life completely. I will be a better person. I will never steal again in my life. And at that moment, I felt God in my presence. I felt God. I saw God. Like I could always say, that's the moment that I felt God in my life. That from
Mm.
that moment forward. And
So did he let you off with a caution then?
he let me off with a caution. Yes, he did. So he told me,
Yeah.
you're
And
coming to me, you're believing in me, you're telling me what you want, and I'm going to give you the desires of your heart. And from there on, I started going to college. I wanted to become an attorney. So I started going to college, taking some classes to become an attorney. I started working for an attorney's office as a secretary, which was fun because I was the only male secretary, and everybody else that worked in the office, there were like 6, 7 girls. So I was the only male working in the office besides the attorney. The attorney was a former Marine. So I was kind of had already my life set into place, and I was heading the right place where I wanted to go to
mm,
until the recruiter comes to me 12 months later, and they're like, Edwin, it's time for you to go to the Marines. So I'm like, no, I don't want to go anymore. I'm working here, I'm going to school. I had my DJ business that has grown into something good. Because I started DJing when I was 14 years old. So by the time I was 19 years old, my DJ career was booming. It was growing. I was DJing in radio stations. I was doing parties every weekend. I had like about 10 DJs working for me. So my DJ business was becoming successful while doing all the
ah,
things that I wanted to do. Um, so he told me, my recruiter told me, it's like, if you don't join the Marine Corps, if you don't go, you're going to get a dishonorable discharge. And
how can you get a dishonourable discharge if you haven't signed if you haven't taken the
exactly,
president's shilling
well,
or
you,
the
you know that.
president's dime, is it?
You know that now, and I know that now. But one thing that I learned is that if you don't ask the right questions, you're not going to get the answers that you're looking for. So what happened was when he told me that, I went to my attorney and I asked my attorney, I'm like, what is a dishonorable discharge? So he told me what it was. It is a really bad blemish in your record, this and that. Instead of asking him and telling him, look, this is what happened. This is what he's telling me. Do I need to go or not? So I only asked, what is a dishonorable discharge? And he told me what it was. So I'm like, you know what? I need to join. I need to go. I'm like, so gave my business to a friend of mine. Uh,
So you got mugged into the Marine
I got
Corps.
logged into the Marine Corps. Gave my business to a friend of mine. Gave quit my job, quit school, went to basic training. And when I got to basic training, they explained to me that, of course, I got mugged into it, that I had the option of coming back or staying in the Marine Corps. But I
Mm,
was already there. So he said, you know what? I'm going to make the best out of this. I'm just going to stick here. I already gave up my business, quit school. I'm going to do my best here. And that's
mm.
exactly what I did. So that's how I joined the Marine Corps.
Right, let's just take it a stage back. Your DJing business, how did that start? You didn't mention that before. So
Oh,
what's DJing all about?
well, DJs is, a DJ playing music for other people to have fun. Um, I always loved music. My best friend back in the day, 14 years old, and back in the day we had cassette players. So we'll play the music, play a little bit, play another song, play a little bit, play another song, and we said we wanted to be DJs. Wanted to play music for other people, wanted to play in clubs. And one day he comes to me, he's like, Edwin, I got us a party. And this is, I'm 14 years old. And he comes to me, he's like, I got us a party. They're going to pay us $200 for 4 hours. So we're talking about, 20 years ago, making 50
Yeah.
bucks an hour at 14 years old. It's a lot of money.
Mm.
So I'm like, wow, this is amazing. So of course, I go to my number one fan and I say, Mom, I got a party. I need a DJ system. So of course, she goes out and she makes this $2,000 investment into buying me all the equipment that I need for the party to make $200. At that time, I was working at Winn Dixie, which was my first job, as a grocery store packing bags. And I tell my friend that worked there, my manager, can you please give me a ride? I have to take. He had a pickup truck, so I'm like, can you please take me to this party that I need to go to? Drop me off, pick me up, and I'll pay you $25. She was like, sure, I'll do it for you. So he did that. But that's how the DJ business got started, from that one party. I mean, it was funny because
Mm.
we got there late. It took us an hour to set up, so we were like an hour and a half late to the party. And but at the end of the day, I didn't have any of the music that the birthday girl liked. So I like to play like hip hop, techno, pop, Spanish music. She only wanted heavy metal and rock. So every time she asked me, "Do you have this song?" I'm like, "No, but bring it to me. I'll play it for you." But it was the best party because at the end of the day, we got tipped an extra $100. My
Oh,
best friend got hooked up with the birthday girl's best friend. I got hooked up with the birthday girl. So it was like, wow, DJing is cool. This is the way to go. So that's how the DJ business got started, and then continue working little by little. My name started getting out there. I contacted on the yellow pages back in the day. They had the yellow pages, so it's like this
yeah.
big book that you open up and you find everybody's number. So I look for the biggest DJ companies, and I offer my services to them if they needed another DJ. And the good thing is, I got interviewed by one of the biggest DJs companies in Miami, that they handle a lot of DJs, a lot of radio station DJs. So once I started working with them, I was able to kind of get to know a lot of the DJs, and that's how I got introduced. And I was able to DJ, do guest appearances in radio stations, and I got called to clubs, and I started, and my DJ business grew from there because of that.
Ah, so you went on a radio station as a DJ, as a guest DJ, I guess.
Yes, in
So,
quite a few
so
radio.
you didn't get a prime spot, then you just got the sort of the late night or the early morning slot.
No, I actually got a couple of prime times. Um,
Yeah,
I knew the right DJs. I knew the hottest DJs at the time. So I got
yeah.
the prime times, and I got to DJ. And then I had my own dancing crew that will work with me, and we'll do like a lot of cameo shows, like good clubs we'll used to DJ at, and we'll be like the main attraction. Back in the day, it was that was like the main attraction.
Mm. So, and I guess all the time you were improving and adding to your music collection.
Yes.
So you had a much broader range of music to be able to go out and do the heavy metal stuff, or the the discos where you got disco music.
Yes. So I kind of
Yes.
stuck to the thing that I like the most, and that was my niche. And that's
Yeah,
I think now that I'm thinking back, talking to you, I realized that I always stuck to a niche, and that's what I do nowadays in all my businesses. I always try to find the niche, and I always stick
yeah.
to my niche and become really good at that. And that has been one of the reasons to my success as well. Just finding that one niche that I'm good at and sticking to that niche.
Aha. So you didn't do the 50s and the 60s stuff then, or
A
or
little bit
or,
when they needed it,
or,
but
or did or did
I
you get
work.
other guys on board to do that?
There we go. I used to get the guys on board to do that. So I used to pick the parties that I wanted to DJ, and then I used to hand all the other ones to all my team, to everybody else in my team.
Yeah. So I guess you got a gang of specialists together in different eras.
Yes,
Ah, that makes a lot of sense. No point in going playing music that you don't particularly like
exactly.
because you don't put your heart and soul into it.
And then whenever you put your energy into something, that energy flows, and people feel that energy, and that's
Yeah,
if you project that, then everybody feels that energy, and that's when they enjoy the moment.
brilliant. Right then, let's jump in with both boots. Marine Corps.
Marine Corps, hurrah,
So
Semper Fi.
day one, week one, they shaved your head
Yes,
and they started to break you down. Yes,
started
sir.
breaking
No,
down.
sir.
Yeah. It,
Sir,
it,
yes, sir.
it,
And all
it,
that.
it was a tough it was a tough week at the beginning, until I learned what it was all about.
Mm,
So um like, a lot of people in the Marine Corps, they quit, they try to quit, they can't handle the 3 months, the 12 weeks of training. Especially the Marine Corps in the United States is one of the smallest armed forces, and one of the toughest ones. So their boot camp is like no other one compared to everything else. But within my first week, because I'm always very alert, I'm always looking around, I'm always like observing, I like to observe a lot. So while I was doing that, I saw two things my first week. When a drill instructor was yelling at a Marine, he was going crazy, yelling at a young kid, to make sure shape up, breaking him down. And
Yeah.
then I see him walking to the back with the other drill instructors, and then they're laughing and having fun. So right there at the moment, I said to myself, I was like, they're
Just
acting.
having
This is
fun.
this is their job. They have to be tough with them. It's not that they're being mean because they want to. It's like this is their job because this guy is not following simple rules. So at that moment, I realized that it's all a mental game. So once I realized that, to me, booking was super easy because I
Mm.
realized that the first week when I noticed that they were having fun. Like I'm like, they're doing their job, they're having fun. I'm like, if I do what I need to do, I mean, when they yell at me, they're not yelling at me because because they're being mean to me because they don't like me. Is they're yelling at me because I messed up. I
I
did
got it
something
wrong.
that I wasn't supposed to do, and I got to fix
Cool.
that. And it was the best experience ever. So I graduated with no problem, and I went in open contract again. Like I said, they lured me into going,
Nice.
so I went in open contract, and they could have given me whatever job they wanted to. So the thing that I feared the most was the one thing that they said that they could make me a cook. And I'm like, I don't want to be a cook. So I'm like, I'm going to school to become an attorney before I came here. Now you're going to send me to be a cook. But unfortunately, um, they sent me to be a truck driver instead of a cook. So it was like another worse for me. I'm like, I don't see myself as a truck driver. Like I was going to school to be an attorney. I had like better expectations in my life. Like I can't be a truck driver. So the first school that they sent me to was to be a truck driver for smaller trucks.
Mm.
Then, of course, I try to excel at everything, and I graduated first in my class. So they picked me to become a bigger truck driver, now to drive the semi trailers and the tandem trucks. Like, oh my God. So now I'm even complaining worse. I'm telling my CEO, I'm like, listen, I was going to go to school to be an attorney. I do not see myself as a truck driver. There's nothing wrong with being a truck driver. It's just me personally. That's not what I see for myself in my life. So it's like, devil dog. That's what we call the Marines, devil dogs. Like, devil dog, just go to your first duty station and talk to them and tell them about this to see what they could do for you. Because right now we're in school, there's nothing that I
Yeah.
could do for you. So again, I graduate first in my class of the bigger truck and driving school, and I got to choose where I wanted to go. So they told me it's like you get to choose whatever you want to go. Any base that you want to go is your choice. So I figure I'm going to live in the United States my whole life. Might as well go overseas and you know, live in a different country, find out what's all about. So I chose to go to Japan. And I went to Japan for my first year. And I had a great time in Japan. I actually complained. It was the whole story. If I tell my this whole story is gonna take 3 hours. And I know we don't have the whole time, but to make a long story short, was that in Japan I got selected to there's only three main specialties in the Marine Corps. Number one, recruiter. Number two, making them with the Marines, which is their recruits. And the third one, which is the best one of all, is Marine security guard, guarding the American embassies around the world.
Mm.
So, because I did such a good job when I was in Japan, I got selected to become a Marine security guard, and I was able and blessed enough to guard the American embassies around the world. So I was stationed in Russia, I was stationed in Chile, and from there I got to travel Europe, some South America, take care of different countries, and it was a great time in my time in the Marine Corps. It was an amazing time.
Mm. Did you get London?
No, but I traveled to London while I was there.
Mm. So that was how long did you do that for then?
So I was in the Marine Corps for 4.5 years as active duty, and my whole time as a Marine security guard was like around 3 years.
So what's that, 7 altogether?
No, in total, altogether was
Oh,
four.
so 4.5
So,
years. So
so it was
a year and a
active.
half in training, and then
Yes.
your first posting, and then you got 3 years of
Selected to be Marine Corps. And then as far as being in the Marine security guard, again, it was such an amazing experience because I wasn't really in the military. I was detached from the military. I was working with the FBI, CIA, Department of State. I was working with the Department of Defense. I got to meet the President Bill Clinton. I got to meet Madeleine Albright, I get to meet all these high-end dignitaries that once I was in that world, I knew that the military was not for me. I knew that once my term ended, I was either going to go into the federal side or
Mm.
do something on my own, because I was detached from the military and I saw this bigger picture and all these amazing other opportunities that I could have had.
So, what rank were you? What?
I got out as an E4, which is a sergeant of the United States, and I picked up the rank in 26 months. So I if I would have picked up in 24 months, I would have beaten the Marine Corps record of the fastest uh, growth to sergeant.
Aha. Well, I ended up as an E7.
Oh, nice. So you were in
Was
a long time, right?
I, I was in a very, very long time.
Mm.
I did uh, I did 44 years under the colours,
Oh,
man,
wow.
boy, regular, and a reserve.
Nice.
So I had a great career, and I took an awful lot of liberties.
Oh,
So you spend that amount of time in the military, you know how to take a liberty or two.
yes.
So you left the Marine Corps after your 4 years and the four and a bit years. So what did you do? What was the first thing you did when you came out and you're a retired Marine?
First thing I did was I traveled. That was like one of the first things I did. I traveled. No, I'm sorry. No, it was not that, because I know it wasn't. That was a couple of years later that I did take that big travel that I was going to tell you about. First thing that I did was, before me getting out of the Marine Corps, I was really trying to figure out what I was going to do with my life. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I wanted to go again, like I mentioned to you. Um, I wanted to go into the federal side, but in order to go to the federal side, I needed to have a college degree. I needed to have an education, because uh, FBI, CIA, DEA, they all require a college degree. So I knew I needed to get that. So prior to me getting out, I asked my mom, I'm like, this is what I'm thinking to do. So she goes to me, you should become a developer. So I'm like, what's a developer? I had no idea what a developer was. So she explained to me, it's like a real estate developer. You buy land, you build houses. So I started at that time, internet was already in place. So I started Yahooing everything, because there was no Google around. So I
Mhm.
go into Yahoo and I started figuring out and learning how to become a builder, how to build a house. So I learned how to build a house online. I was able to find this nonprofit organization that which is called a SCORE, Senior Core of Retired Executives, that you could go there and you could find a mentor to teach you for free. But the mentor that I found, that was a real estate developer, and he was like the most negative person I could have found. Like, instead of telling me, go ahead, you could do it. It's gonna be tough, but you just, if you do this, this, and this, you're gonna make it. He's like, maybe you shouldn't do it. Maybe you should try this first. Maybe you should do that first. It's a very competitive. It's like, oh, like, the worst person, the worst mentor that I could have found. It was that person, because it was so negative that within a couple of months I kind of like X'd them out, and I didn't want to do anything. It's like, I was like, I don't want you to tell me not to do something. Tell me how to do it. That's what I was looking for.
Mm.
So I got out of the Marine Corps. Uh, of course, I was in debt. I didn't have any money, and my mother, what she did for me was, she got a line of credit on her house, and she borrowed $100,000, and then she let me borrow that money to start real estate development. So that's how I got my start into real estate development. Um, I borrowed money from her. I went out and bought the land, and through trial and error, I was lucky enough, very fortunate enough, that when I came out, I bought two properties, two pieces of land. I was able to flip one for the same price that I bought both of them, and I built on the other one. And the thing that I found out was that everything that I learned how to build a house was nothing compared to the way that you built in Miami. So in Miami, we use concrete block, stucco,
Mm.
steel. The way that I learned to build was like the way that you build up north, which is out of wood, everything out of
Yeah.
wood. So when I'm like, oh, I know how to build, I'm like, I was totally like off, way off everything that I learned. I had to relearn everything. But at that time, I was fortunate enough that this guy that I know, his name is Ismael Rayo, and I'm always very thankful to him. He gave me a checklist. He's like, this is what you do. Step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And that checklist I had ingrained in my head, and I follow that to the T. And those are the steps. So once I finished the first 10 steps, I went back to him. I told him, okay, so what do I do next? So he gave me the next steps of what to do next. And that's how I became a real estate developer. And I always say you have to be the right person. A lot of people say you have to be the right person at the right place in order to be successful. And to me, you have to add one more thing to that. It means that you have to be the right person at the right place at the right time. And what I mean by the right time, when I left the Marine Corps, I got out in 2002. In 2002 is when the real estate boom started going up at that time. So I was able to catch that wave. I was able to catch that ride. And I grew really fast. I grew from negative $100,000 that I had borrowed to over $20 million in real estate in just 5 years. It was crazy. My growth was so tremendous,
Yeah.
and I was duplicating every time I was doing. So I bought 2 lots. I sold one, I built another one, then my next one was 4, then my next one was 8. So every time I kept duplicating and compounding everything that I was doing.
So what happened in 2008 then? Were you affected with that?
Yes, I was, and that was my biggest life learning lesson. Number one, uh, 2007 came around, the market crash, the bank stopped funding all my projects right away. So as a developer, your cash flow consists of your construction loan, and all my projects stopped being funded. All the loans that I was ready to close on, the money that I put deposits on, uh, projects, land that I had ready to start construction, they all stopped funding. The bank said, no, we're not going to give you any money. So from the day to night, within a week, all my cash flow stopped. And I had all these projects, like I said, over $20 million in projects. I was about to build like six mansions. Everything completely stopped. So all my money was tied up in all these projects. I couldn't pay my employees, so I had to let go of everyone. I had to trade in my nice luxury car because I couldn't afford it anymore. Um, I had to stop paying my mortgage on the house that I was living because I couldn't pay anything. So eventually I went bankrupt. I lost everything. And, that was my biggest learning lesson. Going bankrupt. It was my biggest learning lesson, but also it helped me become grounded again and become humble again. Because that's one of the things that I always said. I was like, when I told you that I got arrested, I told God, give me all the desires of my heart. Let me have everything that I want. Like I always wanted to be a millionaire. I always wanted to be successful. I always wanted to have money, and He made me successful. He gave me all this money, but I was too young enough, and I wasn't ready to keep that. So when you're not ready to hold something, He'll take it away from you, and that's exactly what happened. He took that away from me, and then that experience was very humbling because at that moment I had to drive the pickup trucks that I gave my superintendents. And I remember driving that pickup truck, jumping from a luxury vehicle where, I had all the bells and whistles, going to a pickup truck that instead of pushing the button to put my window down, I had to roll up my window. Um,
And
instead
a
of
manual shift and
instead of playing a CD on my radio, I had to listen to the turn the channel to the radio stations. Um, you know, Instead of having leather seats, I had vinyl seats. So I realized, like, you know what? I wasn't taking care of my people the way that I should have taken care of them. And again, those were all humbling experiences. I moved into, but the one thing that did give me a lot of joy and satisfaction was that when I moved from my $1 million house into my $200,000 house that I built, for those were the houses that I built that I used to sell. I had to go live in a really bad neighborhood and had to live on one of the houses that I built. The neighborhood was bad, but what I loved was that the quality of the house, that I was giving a very good product to the people the houses that I was selling. So I was
Mm.
happy when I was living in the house, because I was like, you know what, I did a good job. This was nice that people that really, were buying their first house, were buying their dream house. Because when you buy your first house, like
Yeah.
you're accomplishing the American dream. That's everybody's dream, to own their house. I was doing something nice, and that gave me a good satisfaction. Then I realized, like, you know what, I was doing something good. I was doing something good.
So how did you come out the back end of it? What I mean, you've gone bankrupt, and I don't know what it's like in America if you go insolvent, you're not allowed to trade for a few years after that. How
Right.
did you get back on your feet?
So, um, again, you have to be careful what you say you don't want to do. You have to be careful with what you wish for, because, again, I always say God gives you what you wish for. So, and don't say what you don't want to do to the universe. Tell the universe what you want to do. So, one
Mm.
of the things I always used to say is, I don't want to work for anybody else. I don't want to work for anybody else because I don't like working for anybody else. Sure enough, when the market crashed, I had to do what I knew how to do best, which is build houses, fix, remodel. So I became a contractor, and I started remodeling for other people. And I was doing very good. Within a year, I was having money to survive for myself. The good thing, I was single at the time. I didn't have a wife, kids that I had to worry for. Um, I skipped one thing, one thing that I always like to tell people is that one of the biggest lessons of going bankrupt to me was that in order to accomplish that level of success, I was working nonstop, 24/7. And by
Mm.
the time I went bankrupt, I had nothing to show for it. So I just realized that I gave away 5 years of my life for nothing. And I really didn't enjoy life the way that I shouldn't enjoy my life. I put a lot of things away. I put my health away. I put my friends away. I put my family away, because I was just focused into that one
Mm.
material success. And at the end of the day, I had nothing to show for it. So to me, that was one of the biggest lessons, that now I teach people and I preach: live life to the fullest, have a balanced life, because once you have a balanced life, everything else just falls into place. So that's the way that I live my life now, living life to the fullest. But
Mm.
going back to your question, uh, I went bankrupt. I was working for somebody else as a contractor, for other people as contractor, remodeling other people's houses, fixing houses, doing additions. The company was growing, and it was getting better as the time went. And then a good friend of mine from the Marine Corps comes to me: Edwin, I have a good business idea. Do you have any money to invest? And the moment that he said a good business idea, even though I didn't have any money to invest, I'm like, yeah, I wasn't going to pass out on the opportunity of listening to a good business opportunity. So he came to me and he told me the idea of the gold buying business. Uh, and I love the idea. The business model looked great. And he asked me, he wanted to borrow $300,000. So within a month, I was able to raise the $300,000, and I was going to lend them the money. But then I realized, I'm like, Louis, you have never done a business. You have never been successful yet. I'm like, I made a lot of money. I lost it all. I know how to be successful. I know how to make millions. I'm like, let's just partner up on this company together. And that's how I got into the jewelry business. We started with $300,000 in debt. First event, we lost like $20,000. And then I had to figure out what is it that we did wrong, or what is it that we didn't do in order to lose that amount of money. And then we fixed that. And we had some events back to back. And within 2 years, we had 14 stores throughout the United States. We were raking over $12 million a year in revenue. Our profit margin was like 80%. Uh, we had plenty of money. We didn't borrow anything because I was afraid of how I overextended myself. And that's how I came back. I came back and I became successful because of that. And that time, with that business, I made sure that I learned my lesson, and I was only working like around 5 hours per week. I said, you know what?
Mm.
I'm not working anymore. I'm going to make money and I'm not going to work. And I figure out the formula, which is create a system, duplicate it, put people to work, and enjoy life.
Mm. Well, I can give you a little bit of a tip about the jewelry business. Now, I don't know whether you remember, but a while back there was a guy called Gerald Ratner, and he had a big chain of jewelry stores. And one day he gave an interview and he said something about the quality of the products that he was selling, and overnight it killed his business.
Wow.
He dissed his own business.
Wow.
So don't diss your own business.
Oh, I never
That's
did.
that's the that's
Thank
the
you.
key to take from that. That's a little life lesson.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
You're welcome. That's free. So you started bouncing back. You've got a chain of jewelry businesses that you've got people working for you again. Did you get back into the real estate business?
Yes, I did. Again, the chain, it was a great business, and I learned from the jewelry business because at that time when I got into the business, the market crashed, everybody was losing everything, so it was a really win-win-win for everybody. Um, so that business it had a purpose, and that's one of the things that made me whole at that time. Because number one, we were helping people out buying their broken jewelry, and
Mm,
people that needed the money, were able to supply them with the money that they needed by buying their broken and unwanted jewelry. Number two, we're recycling all that jewelry. So instead of the jewelers going out there and mining and looking for new gold, looking for new diamond, looking for, we're able to recycle this. So we were like a green company at the same time. And number three, we were making money. So it was a win-win-win situation type of business.
mm,
And I love that. And then the other thing that I realized that was that the more stores that I have, the more people, the more families that I could employ, meaning that I'm impacting and I'm helping all those people, especially on a really bad economy. So
mm,
we grew the business, created a franchise model. In 2014, we sold the company, we exited the company, and that's when we got back into real estate development. And when I got back into real estate development, I started where I ended. So when I was telling you the story prior to this, was that I went bankrupt and I had like around 6, 7 projects of high-end luxury homes that I was about to build. So, and I always said to myself, Edwin, when you start again, real estate, you're going to start where you left off, which is building high end luxury homes. And that's exactly where I started uh, building high end luxury homes in 2014. So in 2014, so the company got back into real estate development. In 2017, I sold my share of the company to my business partners, the real estate development part. So that was my second exit in a business. I sold my share to them because I learned that when you have a business partner, you have to share the same values for everything to work perfectly. And if you don't share your same values, things are not going to work out the right way. Things are not going to
mm,
go the way that you expect them to go. And that's one of the things that, me being very uh, Christian and a good follower of God, that I need to work with people that have the same values, that share my same values. Exited that business, and then from there on in 2017 I bought a transportation company. There goes what I was telling you before, my experience that I was sharing, that I never wanted to be a truck driver, I never wanted to do it with transportation, but God had a plan for me. And his plan was that you're going to be a truck driver, you're going to learn about logistics, because in the future I'm going to put you in a position that is going to require you to have that knowledge. So be careful what you wish for. Be careful what you say you don't want, because God has a plan for you. Your higher power has a plan for you.
mm,
And his plan was that I was going to own a transportation company. I bought into the transportation company in 2017. And, I grew that company from 8 trucks into 40 trucks in just 2 years. We went from revenues of $2 million per year to over $50 million per year revenues. And that company now, again, we employ over 60 people. So I'm able to impact all those families. We distribute produce throughout the northeast of the United States. Um, and it's been great. It's been a good cash flowing business. It's a very
mm,
uh, intensive business because it runs 365 days a year. It's nonstop, but I managed to create a good support system that they're able to handle that, and again do this thing that I like to do most, which is not work as much, just being a manager, being a consultant to my business versus being somebody that works on the business.
Yeah. So that's where you are today then.
That's where I'm at today. Today, I own the transportation company. I do high-end luxury real estate development, which that to me, I call it my wealth creation vehicle, because the transportation company gives me my cash flow. The development gives me my wealth creation.
Hmm.
I own an investment company where we take money and invest it into the Forex market. So that one also creates wealth, creates cash flow, creates passive income. So I don't have to do nothing for that. That creates passive income. And then my last one is many years ago. I always ask God, what is my calling? What is it that I need to do? What is it that I need to leave behind? And and that calling came to me when one day I promised God that I was gonna, give a big donation once I sell my first company. Within 60 days, I was able to sell my company. So I gave a big donation to church. And when I gave that donation to church, I didn't see where it went. I wasn't happy because I didn't see what I expected that money was gonna do, or the lives that they were gonna touch. But then I realized that the way to teach people to touch people's lives was that instead of me giving money to somebody, I need to give myself my experience, my education. Because
Mm.
if I give you right now $50,000, you're gonna spend it, and when it's gone, it's gone.
Mm.
But if I give you the knowledge to make that money, nobody could ever take that away from you.
There
And
is
then
that to it.
that knowledge you pass on to other people, so that becomes a legacy.
Mm.
So that's how the whole mentoring, teaching people how to live life to the fullest, teaching people how to become successful came about, and me sharing my knowledge with other people.
Aha. Right. I've got a few questions here. Now, the trucking business. Do you still retain your um, truck driving license? And do you get in a cab occasionally to have a
Uh,
go?
I do still retain my trucking driver's license. Yes, I do. And do I get on a cab occasionally? I used to get on a cab occasionally the first 2 years that I bought the business. And it's because I lived where my trucks were. So my trucks are all in the New Jersey area. So I used to live there. But for the past 2 years, I moved to Miami when COVID happened. I moved back to Miami, my hometown. So I'm very detached from the business now. So I do not move trucks
Uh-huh.
anymore.
You remember that old saying? I forget what program it was off, but it says, "Don't go to New Jersey."
No, I never heard that one.
I think that's a New Yorker saying.
Probably,
Don't
yes.
don't go to New Jersey. So, what trucks were they, and what trucks
um,
are they?
semi trucks, big semi trucks, 50,
Are
53-foot trailers, the 18 wheelers with the sleeper cabs.
they Scanias, or are they Peterbilts, or the
Our
Volvos?
our fleet consists mostly of Volvos and Cascadias.
Cascadia? Oh, that's American make, is it?
Yes.
Uh-huh. I was a truck driver for a while.
Oh, there you
I've
go. We share
driven
a lot in
all
common.
over
Look at
Europe. I've I've driven all over Europe,
that. Nice.
from the UK to Sweden, Denmark, Norway, down through Germany, down through the Balkans to Turkey, and down through Spain and Portugal to Morocco and back.
Oh, wow.
I've and we used to do a bit of Italy as well. so,
So we
so
share a lot in common on that then.
we do.
We got
Um,
military, we got transportation, we got traveling.
yeah, I'm a big traveller.
Good.
I've been around the block a few times.
Nice.
Um, One of my favourite things is going on cruises and sailing. So
Okay.
I guess down in Miami, whereabouts in Miami are you?
I'm in a very central area, 15 minutes from the airport.
Uh-huh. Do you get out on the water at all down there? Do you do any sailing or
I
boating?
I'm not ready for the sailing part because I'm an adrenaline junkie. So I'm more into the power still. Sailing is too slow for me still. So I do own a yacht, and it's a power yacht. So I go out on the water. I love the water. I think
Yeah.
there's two. I have two of my biggest passions are flying planes and being on the water, boating, and
Hmm.
I try to get out as much as I can on the water.
That's great. Well, last week I did a Thursday live stream. I do a Thursday live stream, goes out at 7 until 9 British summertime or GMT
Okay.
during the winter. And we had a boating special last week, and we were talking about all things boating.
Oh, nice. Well, the
So,
boat that I have is a French boat. It's French. It's a Beneteau.
oh dear.
Yeah,
Okay.
I love
my,
those. I don't know if
my,
you're
my, my,
familiar with those, but they're big into the sailing. The Beneteaus are very big sailing fleet.
yeah,
They have a big fleet of sailings.
yeah. I had a Hellberg Rassi 36
Okay,
Mark II. So
nice.
Hellberg Rassis are renowned for being really good seaworthy boats, and we took her up to the Baltic, sailed around Denmark, Sweden, and back to the UK, and we've sailed around the UK,
Okay,
uh, and we're quite famous. Well, I say we're quite famous. The ship's cat's quite famous. We have a cat, and we took him with us when we went around the UK, and we were coming down from Inverness. We were going to come Inverness down to Gosport in one hit, and
okay,
we're about 300 miles in, and it's just getting really dark at night. The wind's just dying off a bit, and the batteries are a bit low because it's been a bit overcast. So we put the engine on, and we were motor sailing, and we picked up a line of lobster pots,
oh,
and they held us fast, and we were going nowhere in a hurry. So I dropped the sails. I put a call into the Coast Guard because we were just off of the shipping lane. Told them and said, "Oh, we'll send out a lifeboat, and they've got big lights on, and you can put the lights on the scene, and you'll be able to see." Anyway, it was about 6 or 7 hours later we finally got 3 of these lobster pots, which ruined our sail down to back to Gosport. So we ended up going into a place called Grimsby, and we were stuck in there for a week because we missed the weather window we were on. But when the lifeboat crew came to the boat, we've all got our life jackets on, including the ship's cat.
okay,
Anyway, they picked up that we've got a cat on board, and he's got his own life jacket on, and and they got a massive big story out of it, and they're just about to release the Royal National Lifeboat Institute yearbook, and Artie the ship's cat has got a 14-page spread in it.
oh my God, that's good. I mean, it's good. It's good in a way, but it's bad because what you had to go through, right?
Yeah, uh, and the truth behind it is that he wasn't pretty much fussed about any of it. He slept through most of it, but they made a great story out of it.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
Yeah,
I'm glad everything was okay though.
yeah,
Yeah. It's scary. It's scary. I know I have a couple of scary moments in the water as well, so I know what you mean by that.
yeah. Well, I documented the whole trip around the UK on one of my podcasts, which
Nice.
tells all about it. So,
Good. I'll make sure I take
well,
a look.
Edwin, I think you've had quite a good career out of life. I think you've done all right for yourself.
Yes. Yes. I have done all right. And again, it goes back to what I was saying is that God has given me the desires of my heart. Um,
Yeah.
and I think the biggest desires of my heart, I know I spoke a lot about my business career, my business side,
Mm.
but on my personal side, I had a great life. And one of the things that I always tell people is that, when you're in line on your deathbed, the one thing that I know I'm never gonna regret saying I should have done this or I could have done that. I'm gonna say, my God, I had such a good life. I did all of this, and I can't believe I did this. Like I did this, I did that, I did that, because I
Yeah.
don't have that I should have done things right now. Even though I'm 43 years old, I know that I have done a lot in my life, and biggest accomplishments are the ones that finding the love of my life, finding my true soulmate, the girl of my dreams. Because I always said, I want a beautiful wife, uh, and I kind of put it in detail the way that I wanted, and even from the country that I wanted from. And
Mm.
sure enough, I met a beautiful Gallic woman from Colombia, even though she's American because she was born and raised here, but her parents are from Colombia.
Yeah.
And then I always said, I want to have girls. I don't want to have boys when I have kids. And
Ooh.
God gave me two
You
beautiful girls.
you be careful what you wish for.
Um,
Girls,
and
girls
but
can
that's what
cause
I
you a lot
want.
of trouble.
They do, but that's what
You
I
wait
wanted.
till the boyfriends come calling.
Yeah, it's happening. I mean, it's not happening yet because they're 9 and 10. I mean, 8 and 9 right now, but
Yeah,
they're talking about it. But again,
yeah,
God gave me what I wanted, and that's where I go. Like I have gotten everything that I wanted, that I asked for, and that part is amazing. It's mind blowing.
yeah. Well, thank you for your story.
No, thank you for your time, Tim. Great talking to you. Great getting to meet you.
Thank you very much.
The Tim Heale Podcasts. Ordinary people's extraordinary stories.